Today's episode is sponsored by Midwest Fire. For more than 20 years, Midwest Fire has been manufacturing high-quality tankers, tanker pumpers, and fire rescue vehicles in the United States and Canada. Keeping firefighters safe while enhancing their capabilities is what they do best. To learn more, go to MidwestFire.com.
This is Fire Chief William Ball from the Williamsport Fire and EMS, and you're listening to SA Matters Radio with Dr. Richard Gassaway. The SA Matters mission is simple. They want to help us see the bad things coming in time to avoid bad outcomes.
Hello and welcome to episode 106 of the Situational Awareness Matters radio show. I'm your host, Rich Gassaway. The purpose of this show is to improve situational awareness and decision-making for individuals and teams who work in high-risk, high-consequence environments. The SA Matters mission is simple: to help you see the bad things coming in time to avoid bad outcomes. I'm coming to you today from my studio at my house. Yes, I am actually home. Just returned from Indianapolis, Indiana, where I was in town delivering a half-day pre-conference workshop at the Fire Department Instructors Conference. The conference is one of my favorite stops on the tour because it brings together over 30,000 first responders in an amazing expo hall with thousands of vendors. The energy is palpable. If you've never been to the FDIC, you should plan to go next year. You won't regret it. In today's feature segment, I'm going to talk about sensory conflict and how it can impact situational awareness. I would bet that probably every first responder has experienced sensory conflict, but whether you realized it or not, and whether you realized the impact it was having on you or not, well, that's a different story. Stick with us and we'll take the mystery out of this neurological phenomena. Hey, if you missed episodes 103 and 104, you're going to want to go back and give them a listen. I interviewed Captain Eric Dryman from the Indianapolis Fire Department. Captain Dryman, then Lieutenant Dryman, survived a flashover. I know you're thinking, survived a flashover? He did. Maybe with a little bit of luck. You're going to want to hear his amazing story. And be sure to check out the pictures in the show notes page on the samatters.com website. Click on the podcast for episodes 103 and 104. Before we jump into our feature segment, I'd like to take a moment to thank the departments and organizations that have hosted some recent Situational Awareness Matters tour stop events. Your efforts to bring this valuable and powerful training on situational awareness and high-risk decision-making to your members and others in your region are greatly appreciated. Recent tour stops included the Montgomery County Fire Chiefs Association in Texas, the Delaware Volunteer Firefighters Association, the Minnesota Department of Pipeline Safety, where I delivered the keynote address, the North Metro Fire Department in Broomfield, Colorado, the Castle Rock Fire Department in Colorado, and of course, where I just returned from, the International Fire Department Instructors Conference in Indianapolis, Indiana. By the time this episode airs on May 3rd, I will have completed programs for the Texas A&M Forest Service Agency Staff Retreat in San Antonio. I did a half day on flawed situational awareness and a half day on leadership. I will have done a Company Officer Development Institute program. This is a week-long program for the Fort Wayne, Indiana Fire Department. The Lebanon Fire District in Lebanon, Oregon, a situational awareness program, and another situational awareness program for Douglas County Fire District number 2 in Roseburg, Oregon. If you're interested in joining me for an upcoming Situational Awareness Matters tour stop event on May 4 and 5, I will be at the Bend Fire Department in Bend, Oregon, May 11 to 14. The Alabama Fire College is hosting a 4-day tour stop event. On May 11th, I'll be in Orange Beach, May 12th in Trussville, May 13 and 14 in Decatur. May 17th, I'll be doing a program in Rancho Cucamonga, California for Red Helmet training. And on May 19th, I'll be doing a program in the San Francisco Bay Area for the Fire Nuggets. May 31 to June 1, the Alberta Fire Chiefs Association Conference in Calgary, Alberta. June 3rd, the PEMA Interagency Coalition is having me do a program in Tucson as a fundraiser for the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation. And then on June 6th, PEMA is having me hold over to do a encore program also in Tucson. June 9th, I'll be in Spokane at the Spokane Fire Department. June 10th, the Montana Fire Alliance Conference. June 16th, the Brighton Area Fire Department in Michigan. June 17th, Eastern Michigan University School of Police and Fire Staff and Command Executive Leadership Program. June 27th, the Texas Interagency Mutual Aid Association. June 24 and 25, the Cy-Fair Fire Department in Texas. And then I'm going to take 10 days off to enjoy some time with my family. So thanks so much to those program hosts for hosting tour stop events. Here's hoping there will be one near you and we'll get a chance to meet up. Earlier this year, while delivering programs in southwest Minnesota, I had the opportunity to stop by and visit my sponsor, Midwest Fire. While I was at their facility, I got a chance to talk with some of their employees about what separates Midwest Fire from their competitors. So in this segment, I talked to account executive Dalton Lingbeck about their all-poly design of the Midwest fire truck. So let's listen in to what Dalton had to share about their all-poly designs. Okay, Dalton, I see in the advertisements that one of the things that differentiates Midwest Fire from their competitors is this all-poly design. So what does that mean, all poly? Yeah, describe that for me.
Yeah, well, poly is actually pretty common in the industry. Poly tanks are seen inside bodies all over. Manufacturers do them all the time. They've started around the 80s, I believe. But all poly means that our tank and body is all poly integrated. It's one big superstructure. You're not sliding a tank inside of a body. You're not sliding a tank anywhere. It's actually one big built body that we do, and it's made of 3/4 inch copolymer. It's extremely durable, and it's industrial grade, and it's the kind of poly you can beat the crap out of.
Okay, well, I'm a little bit of a skeptic there because you say that poly is durable, and I own a lot of things that are plastic. In fact, I was just at home last week, and we had this appliance that had plastic parts on it, and I accidentally dropped it on the floor, and it didn't shatter, but it just cracked so easy, and I only dropped it, a couple of feet. So I'm a skeptic. When you say poly is durable, I think of poly or plastic as something that isn't durable, that's going to crack easy or dent easy. So you got to convince me on this one.
Well, yeah, trusted shoes definitely come up with poly. But let me grab down here something really quick. As you can probably see on the screen right now, this is a piece of poly that we use. It is the same type of material, the same thickness. It's 3/4 inch. And what you might notice on here is it has bullet holes. So basically, if you trust a bulletproof vest to take bullet holes, when they first tested it, they wanted to shoot holes through it and see if it worked. And you couldn't shoot holes through it. So what do? We did the same exact thing. We wanted to shoot holes in the theory that poly wasn't durable and poly wasn't reliable. And we tried to shoot holes through it, but you can see right here, the bullets actually could not go through. And there's actually a bullet stuck in the bottom of this one because it wouldn't get all the way through. Now, truth be told, there was one weapon that did go through this piece of poly, and it was a 30-06 high caliber rifle. It did go through, but that's a 30-06 high caliber rifle.
So it was a 45 caliber on the other side?
Yep.
And so what I'm looking at is essentially there's marks on the poly where the bullets hit, but as you show me the backside, it didn't go all the way through.
No, yeah, and the backside doesn't even have any dents on the backside.
Huh.
Actually, when we were doing this test video, one of the bullets, I think it was on the 380, actually bounced off and back towards the person that shot the piece of poly. So no, the bullets did not go through. They actually either stuck in there or they bounced off. Okay. That's how strong this stuff actually is.
All right, so there you have it, right from the horse's mouth, shooting holes, literally, in the concept that poly is not a durable product on which to build a fire truck. So if you're interested in learning more, check them out at midwestfire.com. Thank you, Sarah Atchison and all the staff at Midwest Fire for your awesome commitment to improving first responder safety. I sincerely appreciate your support of my mission. Hey, if you're interested in attending an upcoming Situational Awareness Matters tour stop, head over to the samatters.com site and click on the blue box on the right side of the homepage labeled Upcoming Events Schedule. More than 500 agencies on 4 continents have hosted Situational Awareness Matters tour stop events. Has your agency? No? What are you waiting on? A near miss or a casualty? Be proactive and get your program scheduled. If you're interested in hosting a tour stop in 2016 for your Department of Association, contact me through samatters.com website. Click on the Contact Us tab, and we'll get something set up for you. I should note that I'm actively booking for 2017 also. So if you're looking way out there into 2017, now's the time to secure your date. Here's a tip for how to host a program at a reduced cost. I schedule many what I call companion programs. These are programs on adjoining days to other programs. So if you see I'm delivering a program within a couple hours of your department and think you might want to tag along as a companion, contact me. You can save as much as 20% off the program cost by being a companion to an existing program. I don't do this very often, but I'm thinking about making a regular feature on the show. I want to share some of the feedback from some of the live events, blog articles, books, videos, newsletters, and this podcast. So the first one comes from a Twitter message, and this comes from Estelle. And Estelle said, in response to a program that she attended, Rich Gassaway, thanks, that was phenomenal. Thank you, Estelle, for giving me a shout out on Twitter. So appreciate that. Let me scroll down through. A few of these don't really apply to. Let me check here. A few of them don't apply to the situational awareness message, but to a leadership message. This is from North Metro Fire. Thanks, Rich Gassaway, for a great class on situational awareness. Excellent information and delivery. # fire training, North Metro PIO. Thank you for that. This one says, I'm currently working on an active shooter program and stumbled upon your article. I have to say that I was floored and wanted to jump up and down with joy because I'm not crazy. For a number of years now, I have avoided using the term situational awareness due to the teachings of a former boss of mine. I had the pleasure of using SA in a oral program briefing and was immediately corrected and have been thankful ever since. In short, I learned that SA was a default or a buzzword in my line of work. Most of the people were perfectly aware of the situation and consequences before they got into trouble. They chose to make a bad decision, were poorly trained, blah, 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 use poor judgment, etc., etc., etc. And he goes on, and he's a contractor with the United States Marine Corps, and thank you. We sent a rather long email. I won't read it all, but thanks for that feedback. So this one comes from Dan, and he works for a pipeline company, and said, "Thanks, Rich Gassaway. The best D I ever earned on a exam." This is part of an exercise that I do where they then grade themselves and see how good their situational awareness was. Dan got a D. Which is not indication that he had pretty strong situational awareness that day. He said, my situational awareness tells me that it's almost 6:30 and I'm still in the office. I have to have awareness of the situation, and it must be terrible. Thank you for the great presentation. Have a wonderful rest of the week. This one comes from Tammy Olson. She works for Utility Control Center in Duluth. She said, your presentation was exceptional and chock full of information. It's always great to be told how awful of a listener I am. Haha. In reality, there is so much to think about when on the job, and unfortunately we become all too familiar with our everyday routine, and mistakes happen. Thank you for your awesome videos and awesome class. It taught me how to be a better listener and how to pay attention of what's going on around me. With that in mind, I hope to bring this awareness to our crews in the near future. If I can keep any of them from making a mistake happening, we'll have you to thank for teaching me. Well, thank you, Tammy, for sharing that. And let's just do one more here. This is from Warren Jones. the executive manager for the Delaware Volunteer Firefighters Association. He says, Rich, I want to take a minute to thank you for your presentation to our group on Saturday. If it was a baseball game, you knocked it out of the park. Well, thank you, Warren. It was a pleasure to meet you and to take you on a tour of those great-looking white fire trucks. Well, thank you, Warren. I appreciate those kind words. Okay, one more. This one comes from Greg. I was impressed with your recent keynote address at the Leadership Symposium. Your insight and national perspective on recruitment and retention will help us solve the problems that we have on our horizon. We do a very good job of identifying problems in the fire service and a very poor job of fixing them. I enjoyed your levity as well, and thank you. Hope you have hope I have the good fortune of hearing you speak again in the future on other topics. Well, thank you, Greg. And that is enough of the testimonials. If you want to send me feedback, I would love to hear from you. Just go to the SA Matters site and click on the Contact Us link. Okay, it's time to jump into our feature segment on sensory conflict. Sensory conflict. The process by which situational awareness is formed begins by using your 5 senses, seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, and smelling, to gather information about your environment. That may arguably be the easiest part of situational awareness development, so long as you are indeed paying attention to your environment. Once the senses gather the information, it converts it into electrical code, and that crackles its way down neural pathways to various destinations. At some point, these inputs from the 5 senses have to be combined, comparing and contrasting to help achieve a coherent understanding of what is happening. This understanding is the second step along the way in developing situational awareness, but it's not always easy to understand the meaning of information, especially when there is a conflict among the inputs. Conflict. So long as the inputs from the 5 senses are in congruence or compatible, then it can be kind of quick and relatively easy process to achieve understanding. But alas, this is not always the case. Each sense gathers information in a unique way and independent of the other senses. The senses often do capture their information in the same time frame, however, and this can be helpful when the inputs that are being processed are compatible. The process by which the inputs align is known as sensory integration. While each of your senses gathers information independently, the senses rely on each other to confirm or refute the other senses. I'm reminded of one of my kids' favorite grade school science fair projects. Blindfold a person and ask them to smell or taste various foods. With the blindfold on, participants have the opportunity to employ sensory integration. This, in turn, triggers anticipation. For example, without the blindfold on, give a person some peanut butter on a spoon. As you take the jar of peanut butter, which is in clear view of the participant, and unscrew the lid, the anticipation is already engaging. If the participant likes the taste of peanut butter, their mouth may even be watering. As you dip the spoon into the jar, the participant will smell the peanut butter, which furthers the anticipation. The eyes and nose tell the brain and the taste buds what's coming in advance of the arrival. When the peanut butter hits the tongue, nirvana has been achieved. But what happens when the senses are not permitted to integrate? Using the same taste experiments, start the participant blindfolded and without having known that the peanut butter was going to be the test food. Without visual input, there is no anticipation. Keep the jar of peanut butter far enough from the participant and they're not able to smell the peanuttiful goodness. Again, no input from the smell and there will be no anticipation. Finally, and this is the really sinister part of the experiment, use a small amount of water to thin out or change that pasty consistency of the peanut butter so it takes on the consistency of a liquid instead of a paste. This robs the participant of the sensory input of feeling the peanut butter in their mouth, which by most people's account has a very distinctive, thick, pasty feeling in the mouth. And what will the results be? The participant may not be able to identify the flavor. Some may say it tastes nutty. Some may even describe it as it tastes like some sort of meat. And of course, there may be some who have no identifying features that it is peanut butter. But what is indisputable is the amount of brain power needed to assess and analyze this flavor will be substantially greater because of the lack of multiple sensory inputs. Confusion. The senses can also send conflicting, confusing messages. We can demonstrate this with another taste and smell experiment, one that doesn't involve food, but rather involves foaming hand soap. Some of those soaps have pretty amazing aromas. My favorite scent is strawberry and apple. For this experiment, let's use strawberry. Blindfold the participant, tell them you're going to give them a small red fruit. First, have them smell the soap, and then spread some of it on their hands and have them close their eyes and smell it. And based on the smell, it will have that fruity aroma. If they do not guess right, give them some hints, and until they guess it is strawberry. Make them guess the right answer, and once they've guessed strawberry correctly, then have them taste it. Their reaction will provide a quick and evident proof of sensory conflict and confusion. The participant may even begin to get a bit upset, so be sure that if you do this experiment with someone you know, so they won't react in a harmful way towards you, or make sure that you can at least outrun them. There's the proof. The senses can be in conflict, and this can create confusion, and where there is confusion, situational awareness can erode. At the very least, it can require a significant amount of brain power to resolve the conflict that the participant has. Later in the example, they tasted it and said, "What the heck was that?" Domination. As I was explaining the process of sensory integration in my flawed situational awareness program, I often get asked if there's a conflict between senses, is there any one sense that dominates the others? And the answer can be complicated because there can be some variables, such as emotions, which we'll discuss in a moment. All other variables being equal, the visual input tends to dominate. The visual processor in the brain is larger than all the other sensory processors combined. This makes that sense of vision. This makes sense because during the evolution of our species as a human, the visual processing was critically important to our survival. So, of course, we already know that vision is a dominant sense. We even have a cliche that reminds us, seeing is believing. We don't have one that says hearing or smelling is believing. The problem is, simply because one sense wins out over the others, it doesn't mean that that sense is necessarily accurately depicting reality. Emotions. Notwithstanding the dominance of visual processing, emotions also play an important role in information processing domination. Emotions aid in memory formation and memory recall, both important components in the situational awareness formation process. The more emotional the input, the more likely it may dominate the process toward understanding. Take, for example, two words, Mayflower and Mayday. These two words should evoke very different emotional responses, especially to first responders. The former may evoke memories of the Pilgrims and Thanksgiving. The latter may evoke memories of Mayday training, firefighter fatalities, and funerals. Notwithstanding the role that context and environment play in understanding, you're far more likely to turn your attention to the words that follow Mayday than the words that follow Mayflower. Like so many of the barriers that can erode your situational awareness, it's far easier to explain how and why sensory conflict and confusion occur than to give tangible advice about how to resolve the conflict and confusion. When you experience sensory conflict, you may, as in the case of the strawberry hand soap experiment, realize it immediately. The subject of your experiment may know instantly that foul taste is hand soap, but they may not know that it was not strawberries immediately. The investigative process begins in the brain as your participant tries to gather more information to help explain and resolve the conflict. Occasionally, a jolt of confusion will be so pervasive that you immediately deploy other senses in efforts to aid understanding. For example, it would be a natural and anticipated reaction that when a participant expects to taste strawberries and instead tastes hand soaps, they would immediately remove the blindfold in an effort to gather additional visual information about what they just tasted. Here are some strategies that you can deploy to help manage situational awareness issues related to sensory conflict. Be vigilant to the fact that your perception of reality may not always be true reality. Be mindful that what you see, hear, feel, taste, and smell is not always accurately understood in your brain. Be accepting of the fact that simply because one sense may dominate another, it does not mean that the senses are more accurate. Finally, when you are operating in environments where there is massive amounts of input from any one sense, for example, an environment with lots of radio traffic, your brain can lock onto that sense. If this happens, that sense can not only control your understanding, but it can also turn off the processing of other sensory inputs. What's that mean for you? Simply this: when you're in an environment with massive amounts of auditory input, that being from talking or radios or simply noise, it can be harder to understand what you're seeing. Conversely, when you're operating in where there are massive amounts of visual inputs, it can be harder to understand what you're hearing. This is why we sometimes reflexively close our eyes when we're listening or seeking refuge to a quiet place when we're trying to process complex and detailed visual information. If you've experienced or witnessed a near-miss event and would like to have a platform to share your lessons learned with others, please contact me by visiting the SA Matters website and clicking on the Contact Us link on the top of the home page. Think about it for a moment. The lessons learned from your near-miss events could save the life of another first responder. If you want to share your experience, contact me. If you haven't subscribed to the SA Matters radio podcast yet, please consider taking a moment to go to iTunes or Stitcher Radio. And while you're there, please consider leaving some feedback on the show if you like it. Give it a 5-star review. That really is important because it inspires me to work harder for you. A lot of time and effort goes into producing, recording, and editing a show and lining up guests when I have them. Your feedback lets me know that you appreciate the show. In case you didn't know, I've written 3 books on situational awareness. These books contain critical lessons on improving situational awareness and high-risk decision-making. If you want a copy, you can buy them on the SA Matters website store link or through Amazon.com. I recently added a donate button on the bottom of the SA Matters homepage. If you're interested in supporting this mission, please consider a one-time or recurring donation. All proceeds are invested back into the content creation and research on topics related to situational awareness and high-risk decision-making. And thank you for your support. If you're not a member of the SA Matters community of learners, please consider joining. There are more than 5,000 members connected here on SA Matters, sharing ideas about how to improve situational awareness, how to make better decisions under stress, and how to train members on being critical thinkers and resilient problem solvers. Membership is free. That's right, F-R-E-E, free membership. And when you sign up, I'll send you a special report I've created for new members called 25 Best Practices for Improving First Responder Safety. If you're not a member yet, head over to the SA Matters website, click on the red box on the right side of the homepage that says Free Membership. If you want to get connected with me on social media, you can follow me on Twitter, @RichGasaway, or @SAMatters on Twitter. The SA Matters Twitter community is about 17,000 followers of our mission on the 2 Twitter feeds. Thanks to everybody who's coming along with me on the ride on Twitter. If you want to get connected on Facebook, join the private SA Matters Facebook page. It's free too. To do that, just go to facebook.com/groups/SA Matters. There's an enticement for you to join the Facebook group. I have a coupon on there for 50% off my newest book. That'll save you $20. On LinkedIn, you can also find me by searching Rich Gassaway on LinkedIn. Well, that's it. Episode 106 is complete. Thanks to our sponsor, Midwest Fire. Thank you to our live event host. And thank you to our listeners and, for this episode, our viewers. I'm recording this to put onto YouTube. So thank you to our listeners and viewers for sharing some of your valuable time with me today. I really appreciate your support of the SA Matters mission. Be safe out there, and may the peace of the Lord and strong situational awareness be with you always.
You've been listening to the Situational Awareness Matters radio show with Dr. Richard B. Gassaway. If you are interested in learning more about situational awareness, human factors, and decision-making under stress, visit samatters.com. If you are interested in booking Dr. Gassaway for an upcoming event, visit his personal website at richgassaway.com.